Why motivation is the biggest scam. Motivation is the biggest scam you've ever been sold. I know that might sound harsh, but let me explain. I've built an 8-figure company from scratch. I've coached thousands of leaders, CEOs, executives, entrepreneurs, and dreamers who thought they just needed a little spark to get started. And here's the unfiltered truth. If you wait until you feel motivated, you're never going to build anything that lasts. Motivation is like a sugar rush. It feels good in the moment. It gives you a quick high, but then it crashes and leaves you worse off than before. Think about it. How many times have you scrolled through Instagram, watched a motivational reel, or listened to a pump up speech, YouTube, and thought, this is it. This time, I'm really going to do it. And maybe for an hour a day or even a week, you feel unstoppable. You go to the gym 3 days in a row, you sit down and finally outline your business plan. You post that one piece of content, but then life happens, the energy fades, and before you know it, you're right back where you started. That's the scam. Motivation sells you the illusion that if you just feel the right way, if you just find that magic spark, then everything else will fall into place. But the truth, the people who win in life don't wait for motivation. They act in spite of how they feel. So let me pull back the curtain on something I've noticed working with some of the best entrepreneurs on the planet. None of them, and I mean none, wake up every single day feeling like doing the boring, unsexy, repetitive stuff that actually grows a business. Think they're thrilled to review financials, document processes, answer endless emails, or approve forecasts. Absolutely not. But they do it anyway. They don't rely on feeling like it because they feelings are unreliable. They show up no matter what because consistency compounds. And here's the uncomfortable truth that most people don't want to admit. Letting your emotions dictate your actions is a recipe for disaster. I don't feel like is the silent killer dreams. It's the sentence that has buried more potential than failure ever has. Because failure at least teaches you something, but I don't feel like it stops you before you even start. When you stop waiting to feel ready, something amazing happens. You build momentum. Momentum doesn't care about how you feel. Momentum is blind to your moods, your self-doubt, or insecurities. Once you start stacking small wins day after day, you begin to sensitize yourself to that constant tug of war with your feelings. You start doing the work simply because that's who you are now. And over time, it becomes automatic. Think about a workout routine. At first, every fiber of your being resists. The alarm goes off, you're tired, and the bed feels warm. But if you commit and push through, eventually it becomes part of your identity. You don't debate whether or not you'll work out. You just do it. The same applies to business, relationships, and every other area of life that matters. Discipline, consistent, boring, sometimes painful discipline is what creates lasting results. Here's another way to look at it. Emotions are temporary, but systems are permanent. If your entire life is run by whether or not you feel like it, you're going to stay stuck in a fantasy. You'll be dreaming about the life you want instead of actually executing on it. But if you build systems, habits, routines, structures, those systems carry you through even when motivation abandons you. So here's what this guide is about. I'm going to break down the 6 strategies that actually work even when you're not motivated. These are the strategies I've used personally. These are the strategies I've seen my clients use to transform not only their businesses, but their lives. They're raw, they're practical, and they're not always pretty, but they work. And let me be clear, this isn't about becoming a robot who never feels tired, uninspired, or overwhelmed. You're human. You're going to have days where you don't want to do anything. The difference is this. Successful people learn how to act despite those feelings. They stop negotiating with themselves. They stop waiting for the perfect mood, and they execute anyway. So if you've been stuck in a cycle of waiting for the right time, waiting until you feel ready, waiting until you're motivated, this is your wake-up call. That time is never coming. What you need are tools that work regardless of how you feel. And that's exactly what I'm about to give you. By the time you finish this, you'll never look at motivation the same way again. You'll understand why it's unreliable, why it's a trap, and most importantly, what to do instead. Because you don't need more hype. You don't need another inspirational quote. You need a framework that works in the real world, not just when you're in the mood. So let's dive in. Let me give you the most liberating truth you're probably not going to like. You're never going to feel ready. Not today, not tomorrow, not next week when where things will calm down, not in 3 months when your schedule magically opens up. Readiness is an illusion. Think about it. How many times in your life have you said, once I'm ready, maybe it was starting the business you keep talking about. Maybe it was getting serious about fitness. Maybe it was having a tough conversation you've been avoiding, and yet the moment of readiness never arrived. Life didn't suddenly part the seas for you. Your brain didn't wake up one morning and whisper, congratulations, you are now officially ready. Because here's the raw truth. The readiness you're waiting for doesn't exist. It's just fear dressed up as procrastination. I don't feel like it is how dreams die. And I've seen it 1,000 times. I've watched brilliant people with game-changing ideas waste years of their lives waiting for a mythical sense of readiness. They read books, they attend seminars, they make vision boards, they endlessly plan and prepare, thinking that once they've lined up enough stars, the feeling of readiness will hit them like lightning. It never does. And here's the kicker. The people you admire, the ones who've actually built something worthwhile, don't feel ready either. They just move anyway. When I work with top entrepreneurs, I can tell you with 100% certainty, they don't wake up thrilled to review financials, approve forecasts, or slog through documentation. They don't skip into their office shouting, yes, another inbox of emails to clear. No one does. That's not what builds billion-dollar companies. What builds them is action repeated daily, regardless feelings. And let's be honest, most of the work that moves the needle in business and in life isn't glamorous. It's not sexy. It's repetitive. It's often boring, but it's necessary. Successful people know that. They do the work anyway. And that's why they succeed. If you let your feelings dictate your actions, you'll never get anywhere. Feelings are fickle. They change by the hour. They're influenced by what you ate for breakfast, how much sleep you got, the weather, or even what you saw on social media this morning. Building a life based on something that unstable is like building a skyscraper on quicksand. When you take action, even when you don't feel like it, something powerful happens. You build discipline. Discipline is the bridge between where you are and where you want to go. And once you start crossing that bridge daily, momentum begins to work in your favor. Momentum is like compound interest. At first, it feels like nothing is happening. You drag yourself to the gym. You force yourself to make that phone call. You push through another late night to finish the throttle. It feels small and insignificant. But then over time, those small actions stack. They build confidence. They create consistency. And suddenly you find yourself moving forward almost automatically. You become numb in the best possible way to that voice inside that says, I don't feel like it. You stop giving it power. You stop negotiating with yourself. And that's when indel starts to feel natural. Let me give you an example. One of my clients, a founder of a fast-growing startup, hated writing weekly investor updates. He dreaded it. Every Thursday night, he'd procrastinate until the last possible minute. But I told him, stop waiting to feel like it. Block the time. Sit down. Do it. Within 3 months, it was no longer a battle. He didn't love it, but it wasn't negotiation anymore. It was just what he did. And guess what? His investors trusted him more. They backed him more. His company grew faster, all because he stopped letting his feelings run the show. Now extend that to your own life. Imagine you stopped waiting until you felt like eating clean, working out, making sales calls, studying, or showing up fully for your team. Imagine if you just did it anyway. What kind of progress would stack up in a year? In 5 years? In 10? This is the foundation of everything else I'm going to share. If you don't get this first strategy, nothing else matters because you'll still be looking for shortcuts. You'll still be hoping for that art of motivation to magically appear. And let me save you the wait. It's not coming. But here's the good news. You don't need it. You don't need to feel ready. You just need to move. The act of moving creates its own energy. It creates momentum. It reshapes your identity from someone who waits into someone who executes. And identity is everything. When you stop waiting to feel ready and start acting, you shift how you see yourself. You stop being the person who dreams and start being the person who does. And that's when everything changes. So stop asking, am I ready? Start asking, what's the next action I can take right now, regardless of how I feel? That's the only readiness that matters. Let's be blunt. You don't have a motivation problem. You have a discipline problem. Motivation is exciting, but it's unreliable. Discipline, on the other hand, is boring, but it's what actually delivers results. And the faster you understand this, the faster you'll stop spinning your wheels. Here's the truth most people don't want to admit. Everything you want in life sits on the other side of discipline. The body you want, discipline. The business you dream of, discipline. The financial fortune you obsess over, discipline. Not inspiration, not motivation, not luck, discipline. And let me say something that might sting a little. You don't want to be lucky. You think you do. You think you'd love to win the lottery or go viral overnight. But luck is the worst teacher in the world. I used to think I wanted to get lucky. As a teenager, I'd see pop stars blow up overnight, and I'd stew with jealousy. They didn't grind for years in obscurity. They didn't push through rejection after rejection. One song, one break, and suddenly they were everywhere. I thought that was the dream. But let me tell you something I've learned. Overnight success is actually a curse. Why? Because if you get lucky, you don't build confidence. You build dependence. You know deep down you didn't earn it. You didn't build the skill set. You can't replicate it. So instead, confidence. You're filled with insecurity because you know you couldn't do it again if your life depended on it. Think about it this way. If you win the lottery tomorrow, do you know how to build wealth? No. You just got handed money. You don't have the skills, the systems, or the discipline. Create it again. Which is why most lottery winners end up broke. They got lucky once, but couldn't repeat it. Now compare that to someone disciplined. A disciplined entrepreneur can build, lose, and rebuild again because they know the actions that produce results. They've done it. They can repeat it. And that repetition builds real self-confidence. That's why you don't want to be lucky. You want to be disciplined because discipline means your success isn't random. It's inevitable. And here's my favorite definition of discipline. Doing the things you said you were going to do long after the mood you said them in has left you. Read that again because this is where most people fail. They get inspired at night, full of big dreams. Tomorrow, I'm waking up at 6 a.m. I'm hitting the gym. I'm working on my side, hustle. And then the alarm goes off. And what happens? Snooze. Then snooze again. Then one more snooze until suddenly you're late for work and telling yourself you'll start tomorrow. And with every broken promise to yourself, your confidence erodes. You don't trust yourself anymore. And that lack of self-trust is why so many people stay stuck. But here's the good news. Discipline rebuilds trust. Every time you follow through on what you said you do, you strengthen that trust. You prove to yourself that you can rely on you, and then builds unshakable confidence. So how do you build discipline when motivation is gone? Simple, you schedule it. If you're serious about building the life you want, stop leaving it up to chance. Stop leaving it up to how you feel in the morning. Write it down, block the time, make it non-negotiable. That's the secret. Successful people don't rely on motivation. They rely on systems. They build schedules, routines, and habits that carry them forward no matter how they feel. For example, one of my coaching clients was struggling to write her book. She said she just couldn't get motivated. So I asked her, do you brush your teeth every morning? She laughed. Of course she does. Do you need to feel motivated to do that? No, it's just what she does. Then why isn't writing your book treated the same way? She had been waiting for motivation to strike, but once we created a writing schedule, 2 hours every morning at 7 a.m., no excuses. Everything changed. She stopped waiting to feel ready and just sat down at the same time every day. And within months, the book was finished, not because she felt inspired, because she was disciplined. That's how you win. Here's the other key. Discipline compounds. Every act of discipline makes the next one easier. At first, it's painful. At first, your brain screams, I don't want to do this. But over time, it becomes your identity. You become the kind of person who follows through. And when that happens, your whole life changes. Motivation will fail you. inspiration will fade. But discipline will never let you down. So the next time you catch yourself saying, I just don't feel motivated, stop. Remind yourself, you don't need motivation. You need discipline. Execution wins when motivation fails. Time. You don't need to climb the whole mountain today. You just need to take one step. That's the essence of what I call the single action method. And it's one of the most powerful tools you can use when motivation is nowhere to be found. Here's the problem with most people. When they look at their goals, they see the entire mountain at once. They want to start a business, and immediately their brain goes to, I need funding, a team, a website, a marketing plan, a scalable model, and I don't even know where to start. Or they want to get in shape, and they think about losing 40 pounds, running a marathon, meal prepping, and tracking macros all at the same time. No wonder they freeze. The single action method cuts through that paralysis. Instead of obsessing over the entire mountain, you focus on the next single action. That's it. What's the one thing I can do right now to move farther? Not tomorrow, not someday, right now. Think of it like a snowball. At first, it's small, barely noticeable, but you give it one push, then another, and before long, it gathers momentum. It grows, it speeds up. That's how success works, not in giant leaps, but in consistent small pushes that create unstoppable momentum. And here's the kicker. The first action doesn't even have to be perfect. It just has to happen. Perfection is the enemy of progress. Too many people waste years waiting until they have the perfect pen, the perfect strategy, the perfect timing. Meanwhile, someone else who was willing to take messy, imperfect action has already lapped them 10 times over. The single action method isn't about doing everything. It's about doing something. Let me share a story. Early in my career, I fired an employee who wasn't just incompetent, he was lazy. His dad was some high-powered banker, and he thought he'd coast her life on privilege. When I let him go, 2 months later, his dad sent me an email, only it wasn't meant for me. It was meant for his son's new employer. And in it, he trashed me, said I was inexperienced, didn't know what I was doing, and had no business running a company. Most people would have been crushed. But you know what I did? I printed that email and taped it inside my home gym. Every single day when I didn't feel like working out, when I didn't feel like grinding, I'd look at that email and then I'd take one action, one rep, one call, one tasks, because I refused to let that guy be right. That's the power of the single action method. One action creates momentum. One action turns anger into fuel. One action turns doubt into proof. And let me tell you something that might surprise you. Sometimes motivation doesn't come from a happy place. It doesn't come from rainbows and vision boards. Sometimes it comes from proving people wrong. Sometimes it's from the haters, the doubters, the gossipers who bet against you, and that's okay. Use it, harness it, turn it into fuel. Because here's the thing, when people criticize you, it's actually a sign you're on the right track. Nobody hates on people who aren't doing anything. The fact that you have doubters means you're moving, you're changing, you're making noise. And the more you grow, the louder those voices will get. The choice is yours. Let them stop you or let them push you. I'll tell you right now, for me, the hate fuels me more than the cheers. I love support, sure. But if you're clapping for me, that's nice. It doesn't light a fire. When someone doubts me, that fire could burn down a city. I know myself well enough to use that as energy, and you need to know yourself too. If negativity motivates you more than positivity, don't fight it. Use it. The single action method is about creating momentum no matter what you're feeling. Bored, tired, angry, insecure, doubted. The feeling doesn't matter. The action does. So here's how to apply it. Identify the mountain. What's the big goal that feels overwhelming? Break it down to a single action. What's the smallest step you can take right now? Make the call, send the email, open the document, put on your gym shoes. One action, do it immediately, not tomorrow, not later, right now. Leverage your emotions. If you're inspired, use it. If you're angry, use it. If you're doubted, use it. All fuel is fuel. Stack actions over time. One action a day turns into 65 actions a year. And that kind of momentum is unstoppable. Stop overcomplicating it. Stop waiting for a master plan. Success doesn't come from one giant leap. It comes from 1,000 tiny steps stacked relentlessly over time. So the next time you're stuck, staring at the mountain, feeling paralyzed by how far you have to go, stop. Ask yourself, what's the single action I can take right now? Then do it. One action at a time. That's how you build momentum. That's how you silence the haters. That's how you turn doubt into proof. And that's how you win, even on the days when motivation is nowhere to be found. Let's get something straight. If someone else's success makes you insecure instead of inspired, you're watching it wrong. Jealousy is poison. It doesn't just eat away at your happiness, it sabotages your growth. When you're jealous, you're basically telling yourself their win means I'm losing. That's scarcity thinking. That's small thinking. And that mentality will chain you to mediocrity forever. Here's the reframe. Someone else's win is proof of what's possible for you. Their success isn't stealing from you. It's showing you the path. When I see someone doing something incredible, I don't roll my eyes. I don't sulk. I don't scroll past their post muttering about how lucky they are. I study them. I get obsessed with figuring out how they did it, because if they can do it, I can too. The truth is, most people waste their energy resenting success instead of reverse engineering it. And that's why they stay stuck. They look at someone driving a Ferrari or flying private and think, must be nice, instead of asking, what did they do to get there? What can I learn from them? They do the rest. If someone's success makes you whine, you're done. If it makes you work, you've got a shot. Let me give you a personal example. Years ago, I met this woman who had just come back from Monaco after attending the Formula One Grand Prix. She described it to me in vivid detail. The yachts, the champagne, energy, the absolute decadence of it all. I remember listening, totally mesmerized. Now, I could have walked away bitter. I could have told myself, good for her, but that's not me. I never have that. That's the jealous route. Instead, I flipped it. I told myself, if she can do it, I can too. That conversation lit a fire in me. I worked harder, I pushed further, and just last year, I was in Monaco for the Grand Prix with my husband, living the exact dream I once thought was impossible. Here's the lesson. Jealousy would have killed that dream. Inspiration made it real. And this isn't just about luxury experiences. It's about everything. You see someone crushing it in business, good. Study them. You see someone with an incredible marriage, learn from them. You see someone with the body you want, ask them how they train, but don't dismiss it. Don't roll your eyes. Don't belittle it. Because when you do, you're just confirming to yourself that you'll never have it. I want you to tattoo this truth in your mind. If you're judgmental instead of inspired by success, you'll never create it for yourself. Why? Because judgment puts distance between you and what you want. Inspiration pulls it closer. Here's a hard pill to swallow. If you think someone else is just lucky, you're already making excuses for why you don't have what they have. You're off the hook. You don't have to work for it because you've decided they didn't either. That's the easy way out, but it's also the guaranteed way to stay stuck. The people who make it don't waste energy hating on others. They celebrate wins because they know those wins are proof the game is winnable. And let me say this too. If you want to succeed, you need to surround yourself physically or digitally with people who stretch your vision. If you only hang around people who are content with mediocrity, you'll think mediocrity is normal. But when you're exposed to excellence, when you see what's possible, your standards shift. That's why it's so important to curate your environment. What you watch, who you follow, who you listen to, these things shape your definition of normal. If everyone around you is just scraping by, you'll think that's enough. If everyone around you is crushing it, you'll push harder to rise to that level. So let me challenge you. Stop being jealous of success and start letting it provoke you into action. Use it as a mirror. If you see someone living a life that triggers you, ask yourself why. Is it because deep down you want it too? If so, good. That's the signal. Don't fight it. Don't resent it. Channel it. Let me put it like this. Jealousy is FOMO turned toxic. Inspiration is FOMO turned fuel. You get to choose which one you let win. Here's the mindset shift. When you see someone succeeding, don't think they're better than me. Think they're showing me what's possible for me. That's the difference between staying bitter and getting better. So the next time you feel jealousy creep in, pause, Flip it. Ask, what is this showing me about what I want? What actions do I need to take to create this for myself? Then take the action, because jealousy gets you nothing. Inspiration gets you everything. This one is dark, but it's real. And if you can sit with it, it will change everything. Most people avoid thinking about death because it's uncomfortable. It's scary. But avoiding it is exactly why so many live half-lived lives. Fear of death or fear of thinking about it keeps you in the same loop of procrastination, distraction, and mediocrity. Here's the brutal truth. If you don't start taking the risks, doing the hard work, and facing your fears today, you might never do it. And when you're on that deathbed, staring at the sum of your life, those are the moments that will haunt you. Those are the things you'll regret. Fear is temporary. Regret is permanent. I want you to harness the reality of death, not to scare you, but to motivate you, because there is no better fuel in the world than the knowledge that your time is limited. When you accept that your life is finite, suddenly the trivial stuff stops mattering. Your comfort zone stops mattering. Your excuses stop mattering. Let me give you an example from my own life. On days when I feel lazy or distracted, I imagine my future self as an old person. I use an app, Face app, to see what I might look like decades from now. And let me tell you, it's brutal. I see wrinkles, sagging skin, the frailty of age staring back at me. And then I ask myself, do I want to waste the best years of my life doing nothing while this version of me rots in bed, full of regrets? The answer is always no. It's not morbid. It's motivating. It's a wake-up call that whatever fear, procrastination, or hesitation I'm feeling in the moment is meaningless compared to the life I want to build. That fear is temporary. My goals, my achievements, the life I want to live, that's permanent. And it works because death doesn't lie. Time doesn't lie. If you ignore the hard work now, if you keep postponing action because you don't feel like it, life will pass by faster than you can imagine. And the years you waste scrolling social media, binge watching shows, or sitting in your comfort zone will be the ones you regret the most. Here's another example. One of my clients had a dream of launching a business, but kept putting it off. She was scared of failure, scared of what others would think, scared of making a mistake. I asked her to picture herself at 80 years old, looking back on her life. Do you want to tell yourself, I wish I had tried? Or do you want to say, I did everything I could? That simple exercise changed her trajectory. Within weeks, she had launched her business, gotten her first clients, and built momentum she never thought was possible. The truth is, nothing motivates like mortality. Nothing forces you to confront your excuses more than the knowledge that your time is limited. And here's the kicker. You don't have to constantly dwell on death to make it work. Even small reminders can create massive results. You can use apps, journaling prompts, or just daily reflections to remind yourself of the stakes. Ask yourself, am I doing what I want today, or am I wasting time? The most successful people in the world don't wait for motivation. They don't wait for inspiration. They act because they understand the urgency of life. Every hour, every day is a chance to move closer to the life they want. Every hesitation is a day wasted. And here's a controversial tip. Use your fear of looking back with regret as a tool. Imagine yourself at 90. Imagine seeing all the wasted potential, the things you didn't attempt, the experiences you didn't have. Now ask yourself, what can you do today to avoid that regret? I do this myself constantly. On the mornings I want to stay in bed, I picture the older me disappointed and frustrated, wishing I had done more. That image is enough to get me moving. It's more motivating than any quote, any pep talk, or any motivational video. Life is short. Success is optional. Regret is inevitable. If you don't act, let that sink in. So here's the takeaway. Use death as a reminder, not as a fear. Use it as fuel, not as an excuse. When you realize that every day counts, that your time is your most precious asset, you'll start doing the things that matter, even when motivation isn't there. You'll start making progress because you understand the stakes are real and they're permanent. No more excuses, no more waiting for the perfect mood, no more procrastination. Every action today is a hedge against regret tomorrow. And the more you act, the more momentum you build and the closer we get to the life you actually want. This final strategy is simple. but most people overlook it entirely. The people you follow shape the life you build. Think about your social media feed. Think about your text chains. Think about your environment, both digital and physical. Every day, you are bombarded with messages. Some of those messages lift you up. Some of them keep you small. Some of them outright sabotage your dreams. And yet, most people scroll blindly, allowing it all to shape their identity. If you want to get motivated, start here. Stop letting mediocrity be your mentor. Your feed is full of people who aren't doing big things. They're surviving, coasting, or simply entertaining themselves. And when you constantly compare your life to theirs, you either feel like you're missing, or worse, you start to believe mediocrity is enough. That's poison for your ambition. Let me give it to you straight. If you're constantly consuming content from people who aren't achieving the things you want to achieve, you're conditioning yourself to accept a lower standard. You're telling your brain, this is enough. And guess what? It won't be enough for long. You'll get restless. You'll get frustrated. You'll feel like you're running, even when the real problem is that your standards are being set by other people's limitations. The solution is brutally simple. Curate your environment ruthlessly. Look at your social media. Ask yourself, who inspires me? Who educates me? Who models the life I want to live? Then cut the rest. Unfollow anyone who drains your energy, who's you jealous, or who distracts you from your goals. Your feed should not be for mindless entertainment. It should be for strategic learning and growth. I remember a client who struggled with motivation for years. Her feed was filled with friends, partying, traveling, and posting memes. Every day, she felt a twinge of jealousy. She thought, why am I stuck at my desk while everyone else is living their best life? It wasn't the desk. It wasn't her work. It was the constant barrage of mediocrity and distraction she allowed in her environment. Once she audited her feed and filled it only with people achieving the things she wanted to achieve, entrepreneurs, athletes, thought leaders, and creators, everything changed. She stopped comparing herself to distractions and then modeling her behavior after excellence. Within months, her productivity skyrocketed. She launched new projects, built stronger habits, and started seeing results she never imagined. Your environment matters more than your feelings. If you're feeling unmotivated, check who and what you're consuming. Is it helping you grow, or is it holding you back? And this applies to more than social media. Your friends, coworkers, and even family can shape your standards, sometimes in ways you don't notice. If you're surrounded by people who complain, who settle for mediocrity, or who discourage big thinking, you will unconsciously adopt the same mindset. The solution? Raise your standards and surround yourself with people who elevate you. Now, I'm not saying abandon your friends or family. That's not realistic. But you can control what you consume, who you learn from, and who you look up to. You can seek mentorship, join communities of high achievers, and follow content creators who are actually doing the things you aspire to do. Here's the principle. You become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, and that includes digital relationships. If you want to level up, you must upgrade the voices you allow in your mind every day. Another trick I use personally: every morning, I consume content that stretches me. I read a chapter of a high-level business book, listen to an interview with someone achieving something extraordinary, or watch a master session from top entrepreneurs. I don't do this for motivation. I do it for standards. I want to raise the bar for what I believe is possible, because once your standards are high, motivation doesn't matter. You simply act to meet those standards. And this is the key takeaway. Motivation is unreliable, but your standards are not. When you surround yourself with mediocrity, your standards sink, and so does your potential. When you surround yourself with excellence, your standards rise and your actions follow. So here's what to do. Audit your social media. Unfollow, mute, or block anyone who doesn't inspire or educate you. Curate your learning. Follow people who model the life, business, or skills you want. Upgrade your environment. Spend more time with those who elevate you, physically or digitally. Use your feed as a tool, not a distraction. Every hour you spend online should bring you closer to your goals, not farther away. Protect your mind. Avoid comparison traps and toxic content. You are what you consume. This is the final piece of the puzzle. You've learned how to act without motivation. how to leverage discipline, how to create momentum with small actions, how to turn jealousy into inspiration, and how to harness the reality of death to fuel urgency. Now, you need to make sure the world you immerse yourself in supports the life you want to build because motivation is fleeting, but standards last forever.